Hey, what is going on, guys? This is part 4 of Learn JavaScript by creating a game, which is one of my favorite things in the world, creating games, also playing them. So this is part 4. We are going to go on to the attack function again. We're going to do a few different things. First of all, we're going to actually make the players, let me show you this, take damage. So when let's go into the game, and we're going to attack player 2. Is live. Hey, they should be a bit larger. Let me just make this a bit larger and go in there. Yeah, so when we're going to attack, the player will actually take damage. And it will also be displayed up here. Also, this has a few minor things in it. We are going to, also going to create a forEach loop, one of my favorite loops out there. So fun times ahead. Let's get into the video. So see you in the video. Oh, before we get started, please hit that like button if you like this series and subscribe to my channel. This really helps out the channel. So thank you guys. See you. Bye. Okay guys, so let's jump into the code and we're going to go into, let's start with player 1. We like player 1 more than we like player 2. So right underneath our player 2 live, we will now type in first of all a comment of display player stats. So this is actually just going to be a function which will modify the player stats up here. So each time something happens, this stats will be modified depending on what just happened. But these are triggered by an event, and the event is the attack. So when we attack, we want to modify this stat right here, live stat. So let's create a function. We're going to call it modify player stats. And as you guessed, this function is again a utility function. So we're going to go down here. So I hit save, so close out our function, and we're going to go on the reset display intakes and go create another function of multiply player stats. So let's type in here comment modify player stats function. Okay, let's go up here so you can see what is just happening. So let's create our function and modify player stats. And this will take in 2 arguments. It's going to take in the player stats. So player stats. And it is also going to take in the player itself. So the player object. Now let's first of all go up here where we're grabbing onto our DOM elements. And you can see we have this player 1 stats. So let me just go in here and console log this. So console log player 1 stats. And I also need to restart my server. So wait just a sec. And there we go. You can close this one up. Inspect, and we have an error. What kind of error do we have? So let's go into the console, syntax, and 154. Oh, that's odd. I don't have any. Oh, okay. Now we got it. So let's go into the game. And let's see. So let's console log. I just console logged up here. Player stats at line 48. So let's go into line 48. There we go, player stats. Let's take a look at this player stats. Let's go down here and we got our stats. Now let's say we want to access something. Well, let's first of all check the type of. So we're going to type in again type of player stats, and it's going to give me an object. Now I can navigate through this object exactly as I can navigate through an array, because I can select from the player stats elements, or actually nodes. So let's console log this again and go in here, and let's select this very first node. Now I can do this by typing in, it's a specific object selector, so child nodes, and if I hit save, give me a node list of the object. The first one being text, then li, then text, then li, then text, and then li again, and at the end text. And this is because it's the white space between the single lines. So if I would now select, I want to select li, this first li, I would need to type in within brackets, let's go in here, let's type in 1, and let's see what we get. This should give me the first li, life, exactly. So life is actually what we also need in our functions. Let's cut this out, go down in our function, and let's say down here, let's see if I also going to go into our attack, so you can see that this is also taking place. So attack from player 1, this is where player 1 ends, and up here we have our stats player 1. Okay, so we're passing in one argument, and we also need to pass in the object of player. But which player do we want to pass in here? Well, the player that we're actually interacting with. And when player 1 attacks, so let's go on to player 1. When player 1 attacks, it interacts upon player 2. So we actually need here player 2 stats and the object of player 2. So let's see if this is working. Now, if I would attack player 1, I should console log down here the first li of life. And player stats 2 is not defined. Whoa, wait, what? Did I define it? So we have player action, player stats, player stat. Oh, this was a capital S. That's why. So let's go up here. Player. And I also forgot an A. Haha. That's why. I also forgot an A in the body. Oh. Ho ho ho. Okay, player, player stats, attack player. Misspells, misspells, misspells. Let's see up here. Player 1 body. Huh. Okay. So let's go and alpha 83. Let's take a look at 83. Okay. Missing here the A again. Let's hit save, and now it should work. So let's go into the game. And if I attack player 2 now, I should be able to console log down here the IU. Get 174. Okay, 147. So I console log node player stats, player. And we're not console out because we're missing here the A also. Not here, but here. Okay, let's try. So go into the player and attack player 2, and there we go. We console logged his life. Now we not just only want to console log his life, we want to modify it. So staying within our function, I'll now delete the console log. So remove the parentheses, and I want to say that not player 1, but the player that will be passed in here. So the player stats, the child node element 1, and now we can grab onto its inner HTML, and we will just type in using backticks a template literal of life. So I'm going to type in the text again, and down here we're going to use our variable of object. So the actual player that is going to pass in. Actually, let me copy this so you can see what I'm doing. So this one right here, the player object is going to be passed in here, and we can select something from the object. So its key of life will be now changed. Its value will be changed. So let's see. If I go in here and attack player 2, let's take a look at his life. then whoa, -2, and it's changed to 98. Okay, great. So this is working. Now I'm going to do the same thing for defense and mana. So let me type here a comment. This was change or modify. Player's life. I'm going to copy this line and paste it in for player's mana and armor. So armor and mana. So we need 2 more. So we're now going to take care of the armor. I'm also going to modify it in here. Now another thing that I want to do is that when one of the players attacks, then the other player should be no. So as soon as one player attacks, the other player should be, well, the first player that attacks shouldn't be able to perform any actions anymore. So we need another function for this. And this function will be disable and then enable again the action buttons right here. So we're going to create 2 functions. And let's type in here comment of functions for disabling / enabling player actions. Players actions. Now one function will be for disabling, so function disable buttons, because the actions are actually buttons, and this will take in a attack, player, let me go down here, and later on it will also take in the defense and the heal, but we now want to just take care of the attack. And let me create also the second function, which will, so this will enable or disable player action, and the other one will enable the player action. Okay, so first of all, disable. Now I'm going to create here const, and I'm going to call it buttons. Now this variable is a special one. The thing with variables is they are locally or globally scoped. For example, we had var before let and const, and var was always globally scoped. Now let and const, on the other hand, are locally scoped. So this const of buttons, this variable that I'm creating right now, will not have its scope outside, or it cannot be accessed outside of this function. And I'm going to assign this variable to an array. And the way we create arrays is assigning to a variable with open and close brackets some values. Now these values can also be variables that we already created, or it can be strings or numbers, so anything can be passed into a string. Now I'm going to pass into this string the attack player. Now please take note that this string only has one element, but it will have heal player and defend player later on. And I want to have this in a string because now I can use a buttons dot for each loop on it. So for each button, and I'm going to use an arrow function again. The for each loops always has a callback function. So first of all, I'm going to do it like this. So for each function is the callback function, and we can pass in here an argument of for each button that is going to be pushed within the buttons array, we are going to take that button I just misspelled here buttons. Okay, I'm going to take that button, so singular buttons, and I'm going to set a attribute. So set attribute and this attribute will be a disabled attribute. Now buttons have different attributes and one of them is disabled. We can enable and disable buttons and also a empty string. Now let's try this out. So if I also need to call this function. So we're going to go up into our attack function again. So let's go up here and we have our player 1, which is attacking. Where do we have our player 1? Ah, there it is. Player 1 attacks, and when he attacks, then we are going to call upon the player's attack. So attack player 1, and it's going to disable its buttons. So let's see. If I attack with player 1, the button is no longer usable, as you can see. I can use player 2's attack button, but cannot use player 1's attack button. Okay, so after player 2 attacks, I should be able to use player 1's button again, shouldn't I? So let's go down here and enable it after that again. So down here where we have our enable function, and we just need to copy this, everything that we have up here, paste it into the enable function, and this time I'm going to take out the function keyword, use here a arrow, and we also don't need the curly braces. So I'm going to delete this, and I'm also going to wait just a second. So we have that. Okay, we're missing our const. No, we're not missing our const. We are setting this. So button for each arrow function, and the button should do something, and we don't need a second argument. And after that we're going to close the for each. So close this parenthesis, and there we go. So basically I morphed the unnamed function, callback function from here. Because it's unnamed, I could just use a regular arrow function, not a regular but an arrow function, because this is a regular unnamed function. Okay, so this is basically the same thing that is up here, but we don't need to use the function keyword, and we also don't need to have our opening and closing brackets. So these blue ones up here. Okay, so let's try this out. Let's call upon attack function, attack player 1. After that, we're going to paste this in here, and we're going to now, what are we going to enable here? We're going to enable the player 2's buttons. So let me take these three functions and copy them into player 2's attacks. So we're going to go down here, player 2, and now we need to replace a few things. So modifying player 1's stats, and from player 1's object, and here we're going to disable player 2's buttons after we attack, and enable player 1's buttons after we attack. So let's go in here and try it. We're going to attack with player 1, player 2 takes damage, and we also take an error. So let's see, 176. What don't you like down here? So it says, fail to execute setAttribute on element arguments required, but only one. Oh, yeah. Okay, there we go. Let's try this again. Let's attack, and player 2's, now both of them are disabled. This shouldn't happen. Yeah. Sorry about that. This should be remove attribute. Okay, so now we're removing the attribute of disabled. So let's go and attack player 1. Our button is deactivated. Now if I click on player 2's attack, then yay! It attacks and player 1's button is activated. If I do the same thing again, player 2's button is activated again. So this is working. Okay guys, so I think that's enough for this video. Should we do something else? No, I think that's enough because we are taking damage up here. And this is a perfect place to stop, because next up we're going to defend. So, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, thumbs up, hit that like button. If you didn't, then dislike this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this. And it also helps a lot for the channel if you hit that notification bell. So, if you want to share this video, please do so. And this being said, see you next time. Bye bye. Take care, guys.